My name is Fatima Hassan, and I should have died the night my family set me on fire. That sentence doesn't feel real even now, but it happened. And if you'll stay with me, I'll tell you the whole truth. How I was raised in Islam, how I found Jesus in a place I never expected, how I was nearly murdered for it, and how I met him in the space between death and life. I was born in Aleppo, Syria, into a strict, deeply devout Muslim family. Islam wasn't just religion, it was the air we breathed. My father prayed 5 times a day with unshakable discipline. My mother wore her hijab with quiet reverence, cooking while reciting the names of Allah under her breath. I was the third of 5 children, quiet, obedient, and always trying to please. I learned to read the Quran before I was even fluent in Arabic. I fasted during Ramadan before I was old enough to understand why. I was told to never ask questions, only to follow. And so I did. But something inside me was always aching. I didn't know how to explain it. A hollow space that no prayer seemed to fill. I followed every rule, every tradition, every law. But I felt so empty. I kept asking myself, if this is truth, why does it feel so cold? Of course, I never dared say those things out loud. Doubt was dangerous. Curiosity was rebellion. But the questions grew louder inside me with every passing year. Then one night, when I was about 16, I had a dream. It was simple. A man dressed in white stood at the edge of a river. His face glowed like fire, but not the kind that burns. His eyes were the most terrifying and comforting thing I had ever seen. He didn't speak. He only stretched out his hand toward me. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, but I woke up drenched in tears and peace. I didn't know who he was, but the ache inside me pulsed like a heartbeat. That was the beginning. I started searching, quietly, secretly. I would go online when everyone else was asleep. I found stories, testimonies of former Muslims who had seen the same man in white. They called him Yeshua, Jesus. I was shocked and terrified. Jesus, to me, had always been a prophet, a respected one, yes, but still just a man. Not the Son of God, not the Savior. That was Christian heresy. That was Western deception. That was blasphemy. And yet, I kept watching, kept reading. I began to download the Bible on my phone and hide it inside a secret folder labeled Math Notes. I would read the words of Jesus at night under my blanket, heart pounding. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Those words shattered something in me. For the first time, I felt seen, not judged, not managed, just known. Then the dreams returned, only stronger. I saw the man again, standing in a field of light, reaching out to me. This time he said just one thing. Fatima, I love you. I woke up gasping, trembling. I had never heard those words spoken over me. Not by a man, not even by my father. And in that moment I knew Jesus wasn't just a prophet. He was truth. I gave him my heart in that same room. Quietly, whispering through tears, if you are who you say you are, I'm yours. That was the night my life changed forever. And also the night I started to die. I tried to keep it hidden. I still prayed with my family, still wore my hijab, still fasted during Ramadan. But I couldn't lie to myself anymore. The truth had taken root. Jesus wasn't just someone I believed in. He was someone I knew. His peace followed me like a shadow. I began praying in His name, whispering His words. I even started journaling my dreams, my thoughts, my prayers to Him. But secrets don't stay buried forever. One evening, my younger brother borrowed my phone without asking. He found my Bible app. He opened the journal file labeled recipes, and he read it. I was in the kitchen when I heard my father scream. What followed, I can only describe as terror. My brothers dragged me into the living room. My father held my phone in one hand and my journal in the other. He screamed words I won't repeat. My mother cried in the corner, pleading with him to be calm. My older brother punched the wall. My youngest sister just froze. They demanded answers, accused me of betrayal, asked if I had been converted by Christians, if I was being paid, if I was possessed. I said nothing. Then quietly I said, I met him in my dreams. He told me he loves me. I can't unsee him. That was the moment I lost my family. My father slapped me so hard I fell to the floor. My brother kicked me in the ribs. They spat on me, called me a dog, a traitor, an infidel. They locked me in my room for days, taking away my phone, food, and anything they thought was Christian. But even in that darkness, I felt him with me. He whispered peace over my bruises. He sang over me in the silence. Then came the night they tried to erase me completely. It was after midnight. My father and two of my brothers entered my room. They didn't speak. They dragged me outside into the courtyard behind our building. I screamed. I begged. My mother didn't come. One of them held a gas can. The other carried matches. I don't remember everything clearly. The smell, the cold liquid on my skin, the moment the fire caught, my screams, the sound of flesh blistering, the taste of smoke. I collapsed, and then silence. I was no longer in my body. When the fire engulfed me, I felt everything and nothing at once. The pain was beyond comprehension. Skin peeling, breath stolen, the smell of burning flesh rising into the night. But then it stopped. Not the fire itself, but my presence in it. One moment I was screaming, writhing, choking. The next, I was watching from above. I hovered there in a strange stillness, looking down at my own body. Charred, motionless, smoke drifting into the night sky. My family stood nearby, their faces cold and expressionless, as if they had just taken out the trash. It didn't feel real. It felt like watching someone else's tragedy. But I knew it was me, and I knew I was dead. Then the light faded, not gradually, suddenly. I was pulled downward, not physically, spiritually. My soul was descending, as if gravity had reversed, and was now dragging me into depths I didn't know existed. The light of the courtyard vanished, and I was swallowed by darkness. Not just absence of light, this was alive, heavy, pressing, thick with accusation. It was cold, suffocating cold. I could hear whispers, countless, overlapping, circling my mind like vultures. You betrayed your family. You were warned. You deserve this. You were Muslim. Why did you turn? God will never accept you. I tried to scream, but no sound came. I tried to move, but there was no body to move. I was there, fully conscious, fully aware, in a place that had no name and no mercy. It wasn't hell with flames and demons. It was something worse: separation, utter isolation from all things good. All I could feel was the crushing weight of guilt, fear, and hopelessness. This, I thought, must be what it means to be utterly lost. I don't know how long I was there. Time didn't exist in that place. Only judgment. And just as I began to sink into despair, to accept that maybe I had made the wrong choice, that maybe I was forsaken after all, something pierced the void. Light. A single pinprick at first, then brighter, growing, radiating with warmth and authority. And from within that light stepped a man. The one from my dreams, the one whose name I had whispered in secret, Jesus. But this time, he wasn't just peaceful. He was radiant, a fire that healed instead of burned. His robe shimmered with light. His eyes, looked straight through every layer of shame I carried. I should have hidden. I should have fallen. But I couldn't move. He stepped closer, and then he spoke. Fatima, just my name. But it was enough. I broke. If I had had a body, I would have collapsed to my knees. His voice held the weight of eternity and the gentleness of a mother's touch. I began to weep, not from fear, but from recognition. I wasn't forgotten. I wasn't forsaken. He reached out his hand, and when he touched me, the darkness screamed and fled. I felt warmth flood through me, joy, peace, a love that had no condition, no end. It wasn't just something he gave me, it was who he was. And for the first time in my life, I felt whole. Then he said, "You are mine." Those 3 words rewrote every lie I had ever believed. I wasn't dirty. I wasn't a traitor. I wasn't a failure. I was his. He wrapped his arms around me, and suddenly we were no longer in the darkness. We stood in a place I can only describe as glory. There was light, but not from a sun. There was music, but not from instruments. It was like creation itself was worshiping. Colors I'd never seen danced through the air. Voices, countless voices, sang in harmony. Some in languages I didn't know, others in tongues I understood. But they all said the same thing: holy, worthy, he reigns. I saw a river, clear as glass, flowing from a throne. I saw people, men, women, children, clothed in white, faces radiant with joy. There were no denominations, no sections, no flags, just believers, one family gathered around the Lamb. And at the center of it all, Jesus. He looked at me and said, "This is your home, but it is not your time." I felt a wave of grief. "No," I begged. "Please let me stay." He knelt beside me and cupped my face in his hands. "I have chosen you to speak, to testify, to carry the fire of what you've seen." I trembled. "I'm not strong enough," I said. He smiled. "My strength is made perfect in weakness." Then he showed me visions, faces, crowds of women wearing hijabs, tears in their eyes, whispering prayers of desperation. Young men in secret, opening Bibles on flickering screens, afraid of being caught. Christians, too, comfortable, blind, unaware of the spiritual war around them. And Jesus said, "They are hungry. They are afraid. They are mine. Tell them what you have seen." A moment later, he stood again. "It is time." I felt a rushing wind, a pulling sensation. I clung to him, tears streaming. "Please don't leave me." He looked deep into me and said, "I never have." Then he touched my forehead, and everything went white. I woke up to screaming. Doctors, nurses, chaos, beeping machines, hands pressing against my chest. One voice shouted, "She's breathing." Another whispered, "It's a miracle." I blinked. My body felt like it was made of fire and ice all at once. But I was alive, somehow alive. My skin was burned. My hair was gone, but I could speak. I could move. And even in the pain, I felt peace. The medical staff didn't understand it. They had prepared to declare me dead. One nurse told me quietly, "We gave up." And then you sat up. The burns that should have disfigured me began to fade. Faster than medically possible. Scars that should have taken years to heal softened in days. Doctors whispered about divine intervention. Some said they didn't believe in God, but now they weren't so sure. And I just wept, not from the pain, but from his presence, still inside me, burning brighter than the flames that had once tried to consume me. The doctors called it a miracle. They said my survival defied every chart, every probability, every expectation. One nurse told me, "I've never seen anything like it. Not just your heart restarting, but the way your body's healing. It's like something else is happening." They were right. Something else was happening. I was being rebuilt, not just physically, but spiritually, from the inside out. In the beginning, I was barely able to speak. My throat was raw, my face swollen. But within days, my voice returned. The burns on my chest, arms, and legs began fading faster than even the most advanced treatments could explain. Doctors ran test after test, trying to understand. But I knew it wasn't science. It was him. Jesus hadn't just saved my soul. He had claimed my body for his glory. And yet, as the hospital room filled with recovery and awe, it also filled with silence. The kind that grows heavy when people choose not to show up. My mother never visited. My sisters never called. My father didn't even send word. I wasn't just estranged. I was erased. They acted as if I had died. In a way, I had, but not the way they wanted. 2 weeks later, I was discharged and sent to a women's shelter on the outskirts of town. The hospital arranged it. The head nurse, Miriam, had tears in her eyes when she hugged me goodbye. "God is with you," she whispered in Arabic. "I see it in your eyes." That was the first time anyone said his name in front of me without fear. The shelter was small, clean, humble, quiet, but it felt like holy ground. Each morning, I would wake early, slip out onto the rooftop, and watch the sun rise over the city while praying in Jesus' name. I didn't know all the right words. I didn't know any worship songs. I had never stepped foot in a church, but he was with me. I felt him in the wind, in the stillness, in the warmth that wrapped around my scarred skin when no one else was near. I had nothing, and yet I had everything. One evening, I received a phone call from a social worker. She sounded nervous. "We reached your family, Fatima," but they refused any contact. I nodded, swallowing the pain. "They said to consider you dead," she added quietly. They said you made your choice. I sat in silence for a long time after the call ended. I thought I would cry, but I didn't, because in that moment, the words Jesus had spoken in the darkness returned to me. You are mine, and that was enough. The next week, something inside me shifted. I couldn't just sit in that shelter anymore, recovering. I wasn't here to hide. I was here to testify. Jesus hadn't saved me so I could live quietly in obscurity. He had saved me to speak. So I began. At first, I would tell pieces of my story to the other women in the shelter, whispers exchanged over tea or soft conversations in the hallway after curfew. Some listened politely. Others recoiled when I said his name. But a few leaned in. One woman, Layla, told me she had dreams of a glowing man standing at the foot of her bed. Another woman confessed she had once read the Bible in secret as a teenager, but buried it deep in fear of her parents. They wept when I told them about the peace I felt in Jesus' presence, even in the fire. They didn't fully understand, but something in their eyes told me they recognized truth. That's when I knew I wasn't alone. There were others, women like me, men too, searching in silence, trapped by fear, longing for something more than ritual and punishment, longing for Jesus. I started writing. Every night, I would pour out everything I had seen and heard into a worn journal that Miriam had gifted me before I left the hospital. I wrote the dreams, the vision of heaven, the weight of that darkness, his voice, his touch, his command. Tell them what you have seen. Then I shared a portion of my story online using a pseudonym. It spread faster than I expected. Hundreds of views, then thousands, comments from across the world. Some thanked me, others begged to know more. A few told me I was brave, but many called me a liar, a disgrace, a traitor to my people. One message said, "We should have finished what your family started." That one chilled me, but it didn't stop me. Because I remembered what Jesus had shown me in the vision, not just light, but faces, people waiting to hear, people hungry for truth, people who would never step into a church, but who would read a story from someone who knew their pain, someone like me. A few months later, I was invited to speak at a small underground gathering of believers from Muslim backgrounds. It was in a hidden room behind a bakery. No signs, no cameras, just flickering candles, quiet worship, and hearts wide open. When it was my turn to speak, I stood in front of 25 people and told them the truth. I told them about the emptiness of legalism, the loneliness of questioning, the fear of being different. I told them about the man in white, the betrayal, the beating, the fire, and I told them how even in the deepest darkness, Jesus met me. I told them what he said, "You are loved. You are mine. It is not your time yet." There were no cheers, no applause, just tears. Tears of recognition, of healing, of hope. Afterward, a young man approached me, barely older than I was. He said, "I've never told anyone, but I see him in my dreams too. Every week." I didn't know what it meant until now. We prayed together, and I realized this is what the enemy was trying to stop. Not just my life, but my voice. Because truth sets people free, and truth has a name. Jesus. Since then, my life hasn't been easy. I live without my family. without my name in many ways. There are still nights I cry, still moments I wonder what it would feel like to hug my mother again or hear my father call me his daughter. But when those thoughts come, I lift my hands and whisper, "You are enough, Jesus," and peace floods in like a river. It's strange how quiet life becomes when you've lost everything familiar. No birthday calls from my siblings, no Friday dinners with the family, no messages from old friends asking how I am. And yet, somehow, the silence isn't empty anymore. It's filled with purpose, with presence, with the voice of the one who called me by name when I was lying in ashes and despair. The voice that said, "You are loved, you are mine, and I have never forgotten." I walk through life now with scars the world cannot see, not just on my skin, but on my soul. Scars from rejection, from being erased, from waking up some nights with dreams of fire and my father's voice calling me a disgrace. But there is a deeper mark on me now, a holy one not written with flames or fists, but with grace. I belong to Jesus, not because I was brave, but because he was merciful. A year after my resurrection, I stood on a small stage in Europe, sharing my story for the first time publicly. The room was full of former Muslims, some in hijabs, others weeping silently, a few holding Bibles for the very first time. I was terrified. My hands trembled. I could still hear the threats in my memory. "Speak about this, and we'll find you. We'll finish what we started." But I had to obey, so I opened my mouth and told the truth. I told them about the emptiness of religion without relationship, about the torment of asking questions in a world where doubt is considered betrayal, about the man in white who came to me when I was covered in gasoline and blood and flame, and told me that I was not forgotten. I told them how Jesus had shown me not just heaven, but the hell of spiritual deception, how he had pulled me out of death and clothed me in peace, how he whispered his love over my broken body, and how he sent me back with a mission. Tell them what you have seen. When I finished, the room was silent. Then one woman stood up, tears running down her face, and said, "That's the man I've seen in my dreams, too." She collapsed to her knees, weeping. Others followed. That night, 10 people gave their lives to Jesus, and I realized I wasn't alone anymore. The fire that once tried to consume me was now spreading, but this time it was holy. Since then, I've spoken in churches, refugee shelters, hidden house fellowships, and underground Zoom calls, sometimes in whispers, sometimes in bold declarations, sometimes with trembling, but always with truth. And I've learned something. The world doesn't need more religion. It needs resurrection. People aren't starving for rules. They're starving for love that doesn't flinch, for peace that doesn't require performance, for healing that goes deeper than doctrine. They're starving for Jesus, and that's why I speak, even when the death threats come, even when strangers spit in my direction on the street, even when I'm called a liar, a traitor, a cursed woman, because I would rather suffer with truth than be safe in silence. I know what I saw. I know what I heard. I know who saved me, and I know he is real. Sometimes I meet young Muslim girls who remind me of myself, girls who've never dared ask questions out loud, girls who feel the ache, the one that prayer times and fasting and memorization can't seem to fill. I tell them gently, That ache is not rebellion. It's invitation. They ask, "How can you be so sure?" I tell them, "Because I met him. In the fire. In the darkness. In the place where religion ends and love begins." Jesus isn't a threat to Muslims. He's not a Western God. He's not a prophet that Christians twisted. He is the Lamb of God, the one who died and rose not to start a religion, but to reconcile us to the Father. He loves the Muslim. He loves the atheist. He loves the confused, the broken, the bitter. He doesn't come with a checklist. He comes with nail-pierced hands. And when he touches you, everything changes. My family still rejects me. I pray for them daily. I still remember the look in my father's eyes when he found my Bible. The rage, the betrayal, the pain. But I no longer carry hatred in my heart. Only hope. Because if Jesus could reach into the grave for me, he can reach into the coldest heart for them. And one day, when the time is right, I believe he will. To those listening now, to you, yes you, maybe you've stumbled onto this video by accident. Or maybe not. Maybe you've been searching. Maybe you felt that ache. Maybe you've heard that same whisper in the night. Let me tell you something. That's not coincidence. That's Jesus. He's calling you. He's waiting for you. Not with judgment, with love, with open arms, with a crown of thorns still pressed into his brow, saying, "I did this for you. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't even have to leave your religion today. You just have to ask him. Ask him, 'Are you real?' Ask him, 'Do you love me?' Ask him, 'Can I belong to you?' And he will answer. He always answers. I am not a scholar. I am not a preacher. I am not a theologian. I'm a scarred girl from Aleppo who met Jesus in the fire. And I am his. If this testimony stirred something in your spirit, don't ignore it. That's not emotion. That's not curiosity. That's Jesus. He is calling you. Here's what you can do right now. Start reading the book of John in the New Testament. Just start. Let his words speak for themselves. Pray, raw, real, messy prayers. He's not looking for perfect phrases, just honesty. Ask him, "Reveal yourself to me." He will. I promise. Share this video with someone who might be questioning but too afraid to ask. Leave a comment. Let us pray for you. Let us walk with you. And most of all, do not be afraid, because the one who walked with me through fire now walks beside you. My name is Fatima Hassan. I was supposed to die, but I met the living one, and now I live to make him known. Jesus is real. His love is real, and he's waiting for you. Will you answer?